One. Hello and welcome. My name is Senna, and welcome to Divinely Sovereign. Divinely Sovereign is a membership and sacred sisterhood for the woman that is done playing small, ready to reclaim it all. It's a reclamation through the elements and a potent path that we get to walk together, linking arms, hand in hand, of rising together in our sisters and a beautiful sisterhood. So today, this is our first speaker, and this is a complete honor. We have Dr. Sarah Sue Burich. Did I say your last name correctly?
You
Okay,
did.
just making sure. Cool. And I am just so elated to have you here. We're going to be talking about Earth and Body Stewardship and what that means. And we're going to have a conversation and flow through that. First, I'm going to put on my glasses so I can read this bio, welcoming and introducing Dr. Sarah Sue. Dr. Sarah Sue is trained as a naturopathic doctor, having earned her doctorate in naturopathic medicine from Bastyr University in 2014. Though she is not currently licensed in South Dakota, as South Dakota is currently an unlicensed state for I almost said North Dakota, naturopaths, she offers her services in the roles of health guide, coach, consultant, and ally, healing facilitator, as well as educator in the world of medicine and health. Over the past 20 years, she has taught at many venues and at many audiences, herbal schools, nonprofits, universities, a professor to master's and PhD students, health and wellness centers, yoga studios, the mountains of Morocco, farms and forests, as well as in the clinical setting for her beloved patients and clients over her 13 years of practice. She is also a devoted steward of Earth and her 7-year-old son. To heal is to transcend suffering, and Dr. Sarah Sue works to remove obstacles that can get in the way of this healing journey. She is passionate about helping others find empowerment within their health journey, to make peace with their bodies, teach them to tap in and activate their body's own innate ability to heal, and as well as learn to access their own inner knowing, guidance, power, and light within. Her tools and skills are extensive in order to address and support the whole body, mind, and spirit. Beyond diet, herbs, and supplements, she believes that the medicines of the natural world, creativity, connection, and a sense of belonging can deeply support the healing journey. This is where the sustainable change is fostered and made. Welcome, Sarah Sue.
Senna, thank you so much for that
Yes.
intro and for doing this. I've been looking forward to this conversation since
Yes.
we actually talked about it.
Oh, yeah, me too. And just like you were the absolute number one person that I thought of immediately when I was like Earth Month. I was like, Sarah Sue, because I get to see all of your
Mhm.
beautiful workshops and like your community that you've been developing and building in South Dakota. And I love getting to like see and also hear the stories of like when you're walking people through teaching about the plant medicine that is abundantly available. And so um, I would like to start off with getting to know you more. As I mean, I know you really well, but I'd love for our viewers to get to know you more, and learn more about like what drew you in this direction of becoming a naturopath and to communing and working and teaching about plants.
Yeah, yeah, I would be happy to share. And it feels important to also take a moment to do a land acknowledgement for us both. Um, I am currently in Spearfish, South Dakota, and I want to honor the beautiful land of the Black Hills, known in Lakota as Pahasapa, the Black Hills. And I want to acknowledge the original stewards of this land, the Lakota Oyate and the Council of the Seven Fires. Um, and I also just want to honor the land where you are, because that was once my home too. And such a beautiful place, and honoring the Coast Salish peoples, and all the indigenous first peoples of the Pacific Northwest.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ooh, so it's I'm like, where how far back should I go to start this story? I could go back to when I was like 7 years old and my mom showed me that I could harvest rose petals and eat them and make tea with them and like harvest peppermint leaves, which is funny because she literally just came knocking on my door right before this. So I just want to also honor and acknowledge my mom and her place that she had in igniting these fires of interest and passion and like being the perfect steward that she was to me. Um, but I will fast forward to the mountains of Morocco. So I was living in Morocco in the Middle Atlas Mountains in this little village called Tafajiat, which was a Berber village. The closest city to me was Fez. And I was there from 2007 to 2009 as a Peace Corps volunteer. And up until that point, most of my work history was with the Forest Service. I was a wildland firefighter, starting like fresh out of high school, hitting the crews with like all just the diversity of people, especially a lot of men and not a lot of women, especially ones that were like so young and young looking as myself. Um, I also was an intern for the Department of Natural Resources. So when I was applying for Peace Corps, they were like, well, this is a no-brainer. You're going to be an environmental volunteer. And I was like, great. I love the planet. I love Mother Earth. At that point, I had had an affinity towards alternative medicine or natural medicine. I had self-educated and taught myself a lot about nutrition, about herbal medicine. In high school, I got to work at this health food store. So I just like gobbled up all the books that they had during the slow times there. Um, and I knew that's like where the direction I wanted, but I was like, yeah, I'll do environment. And my job description had to do with environmental education and convincing people to not do over harvesting of the trees in the area because deforestation is a really big issue in North Africa at large. Which there's a lot of reasons for it. And um, my job description was to educate the local stakeholders, like the leaders in the community, that regional community, as well as educators and the local populations to not over harvest firewood, which I want to just take a step back for a moment. Like when it comes to deforestation, like that's not the root cause of so much of that. So much of the root cause of deforestation is climate change. It's not poor people living in the mountains trying to survive. So already the dice was stacked against them, and it was really hard to do. I couldn't show up for my work in a good conscience when I was seeing people living at poverty levels I've never seen before, aside from when I traveled to Ghana, when I was an undergrad. This was like third world village, even though Morocco is technically not a third world country because of its cosmopolitan cities. Most of the rural area is third world. What I was also noticing is there was this Department of Water and Forest that was kind of like the Forest Service of Morocco, and a lot of men working for them, supposedly protecting the forest. And I learned in short order and witnessed and saw myself a lot of what under the table activities with large scale old growth harvesting of these ancient old growth Atlas cedar forests in the Middle Atlas Mountains. Yet I'm supposed to be there to tell people to stop cutting firewood, even though they had no other alternative source to stay warm or cook food. And they were also really sick. And people were dying of, causes that could have been prevented with access to reasonable health care. And over time, I was like, if I want to save the environment, there are other things I need to be doing than this kind of work. And so I ended up getting more into like women's health and women's empowerment, even though it was outside of my scope of assignment. And I was like, if I want to help the environment, I need to get people healthy enough to care. I need them to reclaim and find their power within to be able to use that fire of their own to take action and show up because it's not fair that we put it on certain individuals. It's a collective effort. We are all residents of planet Earth. This, as I said in this video I did recently on mushrooms, like we are all like passengers on this spaceship called Earth. So we all have a responsibility.
Woo!
Woo woo! Just flying through the space. Whew, the fire is it's in full force today, I would say. So during my time at Peace Corps, I applied to Bastyr. And that's how I became, entered into the program I was in and became a naturopathic doctor. There's a lot of other inspirations along the way, as well. But that was the big one that got me to figure out how on earth to get an application to Morocco, fill it out, get all the references in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone service, no running water, and apply and get accepted to Bastyr.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
incredible. First off, just thank you so much getting to hear this part of your story and your path. This is new information for me, and it's incredibly powerful work. And I see the arc that you've been on of seeing, like understanding that, yeah, it's not just these people's fault. It's not their fault for overforesting. They're trying to take care of their most survival needs and the collective greater issue of global warming. And just yeah, being in that sticky spot right there of like you have to tell them to stop because it's the original resources that everyone needs and collectively. And so anyway, I'm just saying that like that is such a powerful beginning of your journey, and then also how you're in this arc of seeing how the individual, the reclamation of someone's power and knowing that they have the ability to make change, but first and foremost, their health is important in order to make change. I just want to reflect that, and I see that, and I love the path that you're on, and thank you for the work that you're doing.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Um, I was going to steer into seeing the word steward is a big keyword for today. And I love what you wrote in um, your bio earlier that you had sent. It just kind of a little synopsis. Steward means to take care of, or to manage or look after. And the question of how are we stewarding ourselves? How does that interconnect with stewarding the planet? We rely on the natural world for our healing and existence. We must take care of what takes care of us. It's simple. Let's talk about how this all could look. So I would love to just open up this part of the conversation around a steward, what that means for you, and what are you stewarding?
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that word, steward. There's other like ways I think that people can like view what they are taking care of or they're in charge of, which is essentially what stewardship means. So someone who owns land or property, that's my land. That's my property, no trespassing. Versus like I have the gift and honor to steward this land.
All
It
land.
yeah, it has less colonizer vibes to it for
Heard.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the same goes with like, I think it's important to just acknowledge you and I are both mothers and stewards of these beautiful like star children. And um that's been a really big teacher of me for me, that and my Molly dog that I had for 9 years. She really was my first teacher of this because, yes, Molly was mine, but she wasn't mine. Molly was Molly's. Molly came to us when she was maybe 6 or 7 years old and just this really sweet, angelic feeling 25-pound poodle doodle mix. And I would go to places with her and she would just like have these moments with these other humans. And I was like, this is just like not even my business. Like, this is her life and her journey and her work. Like, and people would be like, like, that's your dog. I'm like, yeah, I take care of her, but she also takes care of me too. You know, I,
Yes.
who, we can argue about who owns who here.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You kind of brought something to my mind as well. I saw I came across a reel on Instagram this week, and it was I am going to butcher his name. I feel so bad, but he's a guru. I think it's Sidhu. I Anyway, he was talking about he was talking to a mother, and the mother was asking, "What's the best way to raise a child?" And he's like, "You do not raise a child. Raising is for like cattle, like you're." Whereas you cultivate a child. You get to see them and blossom into becoming their own being. You don't define who they are. You don't define their job. And that's one of the worst things that we could do is to take ownership of another, to define somebody else of who they are and what they can be or can't be. That's not only disempowering and a disservice for them, but it's a disservice for everyone else. And so, what I love that you just brought up is just, first of all, the symbiotic relationship of what a steward is, and also that it's a cultivation of um, of what you're stewarding.
I love that cultivation.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I love that what you brought up about what that guru said. I think about like one of my first gurus who I never got to meet or sit with, but Khalil Gibran, who's the author of The Prophet. He speaks about it too, about parenting, that these souls come through us. And I remember seeing like a cartoon depiction of this, and it was sort of like this bow and arrow going through the parents.
yeah,
But like that arrow is not them. Like you have the container of the vessel, like say the womb, but like pew, like this is its own entity, this child.
yeah,
It comes through, and that is like such a gift and honor. Um, and when I hear that way of the origin story, it's like, how can we not be anything but a steward?
yeah, yeah. And this kind of shifts beautifully into talking about boundaries, as well, which is something that you and I discussed a little bit before this as well, as just maybe that's a part of being a steward is understanding the boundaries and also like really honing in on what it is that you value and what you stand for. And I wanted to shift into this part of the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been thinking about boundaries a lot. And before I go further, I just want to acknowledge that, a lot of my work and experience over the years, it's actually been with both men and women, but in different like fashions. But I think client patient wise has been a lot of women and definitely a lot of caregivers. So not just parents, but children taking care of aging parents, for example, teachers, translators, in social work. Like so many ways of being like a caregiver, a social worker, service worker, honoring anyone who's working in the service industry. And what is important to acknowledge with anyone who is doing caregiving is that there can be a depletion and a deficit of resources left at the end of the day for them. If we have like a vessel of like X amount of energy and time, let's just say energy. Let's like, that includes food, inspiration, joy, laughter, um, the will to go do something. If it gets poured out everywhere else, there's nothing left for that person. It's like there is a leak in that container. the boundaries have not been set. And so it's leaching all around. And there ends up being quite a bit of depletion. And so, and we've also been grown, been raised from prior generations that are very well intent, have very good intentions of really highlighting and emphasizing this great thought, which we're realizing doesn't work out so well, of being selfless is like a great trait and attribute to have. Um, and an insult would be something like, oh, they're so selfish or so full of themselves. And I've started to counter it like, I don't know what else I'd want to be filled with except myself, except maybe divinity, Mother Earth energy, Father Sky, God. Um, and what it takes to be able to start to discern even like what is me, what is mine to hold, what is mine to carry, and what is outside of me is really big work because I want to go back to naturopathic training for a moment. There's different like principles that we are trained and educated and taught to that like guides and informs our practice. And one of them is removing obstacles to cure. And I think a significant obstacle for many people is that they never were taught how to even like identify when a boundary is even needed. They don't know what the signs are when there needs to be a boundary. They were maybe taught that like it's not polite to say no. They were taught you just have to do this. That's what we do. And that there's shame around saying no and putting yourself first.
Yeah,
So these
definitely.
obstacles are so much like it's like the shame and these old stories that are just stories. They're not capital T truths. They are stories that have been passed down and we get to rewrite them.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I have so much to say on that. All I will say about it though is just that is such a common culture as well for women. Just looking at like an aerial view of the history of women, just in the United States, other cultures, are still to this day have such extreme experiences still of not having equal rights and body rights and don't get me started on that, but just but more so just the culture of just like women were literally property for years, hundreds of years. And even just like being able to have your own money was something that and like not even having to have like a co-signer or whatever for a check or for opening up a loan in a bank wasn't changed until 1976. It just like the roles and stuff as well that we learned um of a woman being particularly property, first of all, you know, being sold, her body not being something that she gets to own herself. And then the rules of America, in the past 100 years of the mom takes care of everybody. The mom is expected to eat last. Like, even though she cooked it, she cleaned it, she's gonna clean it up. She's gonna go take care of the kids and go get them in bed. She's gonna wash all the clothes and she's gonna do the dishes and she's gonna clean the house. Like, over and over and over, like this memory, this disempowerment is so deeply ingrained in women and in our culture. And so it's like and just this undertone of like it's not okay to be a full self. And something you're touching on is it's selfish to even have a request, a need, or to say no. And so many of us, myself included, like uh, being angry or being able to say no wasn't something that was encouraged as a child. And how detrimental is that for a young girl going out into the world not having a boundary, not being able to know that her sacred no means no. It has a lot of consequences for it for sure. And it's ironic that like being considered selfish when really all that it is you need to take care of yourself first. Being a self, you have the right to be a full, lit up, filled self. It's not selfish. And thank you so much for bringing in the caretakers and our social workers and the people that, um, you know, have such a taxing, um, work. But I want to also name that like it at the end of the day, it is also their responsibility to understand and learn those boundaries, their responsibility to also be able to take that time to really pour into themselves. Because what we're talking about here too, about being a steward, is how can we be a steward for others, but first being a steward to ourselves, being a steward to our bodies.
Yeah, exactly. And over the years, I've done a lot of exploration of like, what does it mean to actually heal? Like, what on earth does healing mean? This
Yeah.
like nebulous location that maybe exists somewhere. The path can be quite turbulent at times. And I mean, so much it's like that's the name of my practice, Journey Home Healing. Um, and I've come to and I've had this conversation with a lot of colleagues and a lot of other practitioners in the healing arts. And the one definition that's really coming to mind with what you're saying, to heal is to be whole and to be complete. And in order to do that, we must practice stewardship to ourselves. And we must be able to, you know, reckon with all these things that we're talking about and choose a more loving and different way, even if it's uncomfortable and it sounds rude based on what we were priorly taught or conditioned to believe or behave.
Yeah.
That no can be the most loving, compassionate, kind sentence you say in a day. No, thank
Yes.
you. I'm not available for that right now. I've really been adding to many statements, especially if they're no, or they could be misinterpreted as finite of just ending each one with for now. Like, nope, I'm not interested in that at this moment. Or like, I'm not going to do that right now. Or I'm
Yeah.
going to be done with this for now.
Hmm.
Um, it just feels a little less scary that way when you're still kind of like developing the neural pathways, doing the forgiveness work,
Yeah.
loving and apologizing to your ancestors when you're like, I love you all. Thank you for life. And please be kind to me when I have the courage to do things differently.
Mm, I love that. Yeah. I I want to name that like as someone that also didn't know what boundaries were and really in the past 7 years have been practicing them. And part of boundaries is taking up that space, calling in, claiming really that you can take up space and that you do get to say no. I'm doing this with my hands. You can't see it, but it's around like my womb space around my belly. It's because that's kind of like where this energetic gets cut off of like I see for myself and for a lot of women too is it's like you when you're feeling small, it's like you're not able to really open up your lower chakras, if that makes sense. And well, I'm going to touch on that maybe another time, but what I am trying to say though is that holy crap, I'm forgetting. My brain just went offline.
Let's see. We were talking about like the no and the whole and complete. Um, yeah.
Oh, how silly. Um,
While or
yeah,
go ahead.
you go ahead. Please do.
I just want to give like a really practical example
Yeah.
and let me know if it comes back to you.
Okay, we'll do.
So this is a common no that I talk about with patients and clients of how like a very like great example of how to steward oneself is I work a lot with, lifestyle with people. So things like food and nourishment. And when it comes to entering the very complicated territory of what on earth does one eat and how does one feed oneself and when do they do it and what do they do it with and all this stuff, sometimes what can come up is the discovery of things like food sensitivities and food allergies or foods that maybe initiate a flare up of symptoms, whether that's gut related symptoms, maybe it's brain fog and fatigue, maybe it's congestion in the sinuses. Maybe it's like a flare-up of ADHD-like symptoms, like red dyes are big with that with kiddos.
Mhm.
Most food coloring and dyes, like direct correlation, food dye and system of little ADHD body and me, like. And so what I like to say is like that no is like for the good of the realm. Like for the love of myself, I respectfully and happily say no, thank you. And and also let's talk about apologies for a minute, and how overused they are. Um, which is okay. But I've what I've noticed too with a lot of caregivers and a lot of people who are working on their boundaries is a lot of like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And it's like, you deserve to take up space and you have done me no wrong. Like, let's leave the apologies for actual like wrongdoings. But you apologizing because you're just informing me that you don't eat gluten, there is no apology warranted here.
Mhm.
I should be thanking you, not receiving an apology for it. And you should be thanking yourself for being an advocate and a steward of your body. I choose to not eat this allergen because I love myself too much and I want to have a good day tomorrow or in two
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. Okay, I remember what I was going to say. You helped me
Okay.
to remember it because what you're talking about is really just like kind of along the tangible path of when you are beginning to set boundaries. And what I started going down and remembering was just like my journey of like I didn't know how to set boundaries before, and um, instead what I would do would be some sort of like emotional manipulative tactic or some sort of like I say this word softly, but a victim story of like something that is a story that I'm telling myself and trying to get someone else's impression for compassion for or just something out of it. But what I'm trying to say though is having safe spaces to practice setting boundaries, that may be with a friend. What I love is that you're helping these women, you're teaching them this, and this is a space in which you're you're literally being able to train and also have them practice. What I'm saying is like having safe spaces to practice your boundaries, practice your sacred yes, practice your sacred no. For me, that was women's circle work and getting to practice in a space that was really felt safe and really felt honored, even though when I'm experiencing being able to say no for the first time, even in a safe space, it's scary. And I totally want to validate that is a scary thing because at some point in your life, you've been told that that's not okay. Your no is not okay. Um, and then I was going to say one more thing too about um, just yeah, Brene Brown and when you have and you set a boundary and when you are saying that it's just boundaries are generous. She teaches about like because what that does is that's such an act of self-respect and it's such an act of self-love that it allows you to continue to be generous. And so I think that's kind of what you're saying here too is with a lot of these women that are caretakers for others, yeah, being able to discern what's theirs, what's not theirs, and just kind of where they end and where someone else begins, and is such a powerful uh, practice. And it's a practice, right? It's not something that you're going to do in just one day. It's a lifetime of situations and dynamics and people that you work with that you're going to be in dialogue with constantly.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. And it does take so much practice. I think about the term like boundaries will set you free, that I received from reading the book Boundaries by Melissa Urban, which is
Yes.
interesting because she discovered it because she's the founder of Whole30 diet. So she just started witnessing people that just couldn't complete this diet and how much of it went back to boundaries.
Wow. Oh,
But then,
that's
of course, the history of addiction and childhood stuff is always there in the background too.
yeah.
But what is really nice about some of these like leaders in boundaries, so people like Melissa Urban and Brene Brown. There is another one I really want to share and acknowledge too. Give me a moment. I'm
Mhm.
trying to remember her name, but one thing with the boundaries is like it doesn't have to sound mean or bitchy. Like I think that there's like a lot of opportunity for being crafty and creative with words, but also really clear and like you don't need to have an explanation, but it doesn't have to like always sound like so mean and like assertive like right away. Um
I think what
yes,
that
Nidra
happens,
Glover Kawa. That's the other woman I wanted to talk about. Set boundaries, find peace. A guide to reclaiming yourself is
say her
another
name one more
amazing book.
time.
Yeah, it's Nidra, Nedra Glover Tawwab, and that's Tawwab.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I love that. And I was going to say one last thing is just boundaries are love. Being able to honor somebody else's boundaries is a sense of love. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I kind of want to start talking about our relationship with earth and plants and
Hmm.
our body as well. And um, I had told you before this, I had this little story about my work with Sananga. And so for those that don't know, Sananga is a beautiful plant medicine. It's a master teacher. Specifically, what I'm communing with is from Four Visions, and it's from the Nukini tribe in Brazil. And what I've been wanting to do is to heal my physical eyesight, so I don't need glasses anymore. And what this does is it really helps with opening up the third eye and opening up intuition and receiving clarity. It's very grounding too, and also usually so it comes in the form of drops, and you keep it in the refrigerator, and you just do one drop in each eye and it takes you through a sensation of burning, of pain through each eye and through the experience. And there's medicine in just that experience because what does pain do? It makes you very present very quickly. And so you're with it and when I've communed with it for the first time, it just for me it was very intense and but I also had a really beautiful dialogue with this plant and with this medicine and I just started to cry and I had this beautiful release and then a resounding grounding and and I wanted to continue working with it and at one point though I noticed that I was trying to get rid of it. I knew somebody else that was going to heal their eyesight naturally and I was going to tell him about it and I was going to give him mine but the plant when I went to reach for it it said no, no, you chose this sacred contract with me. This is ours. We're doing this
Hmm.
together. So I was like, okay, okay. And then at one point I wanted to like dilute it, and it was like, no, you cannot dilute me. And so I'm like, okay. So I had this beautiful experience though the other day. I was feeling very kind of just like congested energetically and just I didn't have clarity and I was feeling really frustrated and I just when my son went to school on Monday, I wanted to just drop in and I laid outside for a bit in the sun and I went to go get it from my refrigerator and I end up just like taking out the drops and I'm about to do it but my body was signaling to me like I don't want to do this. Like I don't want to do this. And I was also like on day 4 of my starting a new cycle. So I was on my period and I'm already, 10 times more sensitive. So no wonder why my body is like, no, please don't. But also I really wanted to connect with this medicine. And so instead what I did was I was laying outside and I was holding the dropper over my heart um and just like really just having a conversation with the Sananga and just saying like that I'm scared and that I don't want the burning sensation and I don't want to put it in my eyes. And and I just had this beautiful conversation with this medicine. And instead, I was directed to actually put it topically over the space in my heart that I was feeling constriction, and then to also put some on my forehead over my third eye. And it was just as powerful. It was so powerful. I I
Mm.
I felt it still, be able to seep into my skin and to be in this resonance with this plant and to be able to still have communication and still receive clarity. And also a deep emotional release. Like I still cried and so I had this profound moment that I was just excited to bring to this conversation today because in one way, I honored my own boundary of my body was like, no, I don't want that in my eyes. But also, I am here because I do want to learn from this medicine, from this plant, from this teacher, and um, and be able to have a conversation. And my boundary was honored, and in fact, I was supported in a whole other way that I feel like I've been building a trust with this. And so I'm pretty new to really having communication with plants and however trees. I've always been very connected with trees and being able to talk with them or feel their pulse or going into the redwoods. I can go to each tree and there's certain spirits that will often lend me certain wisdom or I'll get insights. But I wanted to open this up with you to hear what your relationship with plants or anything that I've mentioned. But
Yeah. Yeah, I love this story so much because what I'm hearing is a conversation between you two, between you and your body. That's a conversation. Your mind and the rest of body, the should versus like what the body really wants and needs. So being able to steward yourself, but then there's this conversation going on between you and this sacred plant and coming to an agreement. Because, an application of a really powerful plant physically is one method of application, but it's not the only one. And, in the Western mind, conventional realm of medicine, the biomedical world, we're so connected to just the physical substances. It's like from the molecules to the cells, and then and so it goes up from there. Cells create tissues create organs create body systems, and body systems create a human body. But does it just stop there? No, 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 no. It keeps going. There's the energy field, which is very much like researched and documented. The brain emits EMFs like an inch beyond its organ tissue. The heart radiates EMFs 3 feet beyond its organ tissue. Electromagnetic frequencies, nothing woo. It's very like rudimentary like physics. And so it goes with plants. They have their own energy emission. And I think there's, just like we can like, feel the room of humans, we can feel the room with plants. So I just want to say that first and foremost about plant energetics, that they're very practical and very real. And I think it's overlooked that we can start with these like more energetic levels of working with them and communicating with them than just like this very like um intense physical interaction. I have called upon the energies, the signatures of particular plants many times in my practice, many times for my own care. Um, when I am working with people that I know I'm never going to see them again, and so I can't go procure the herb that I'm thinking of, I call that herb in now to like hold them. A lot of times it's hawthorn. I love the hawthorn tree so much. It's a heart medicine. It's from the rose family, and it's very much about heart opening. It's very nurturing and supportive. And it does this on the energetic and spiritual levels as well as the physical levels because it opens the coronary arteries. But hawthorn's also a beautiful mother that has thorns. So, thinking about that boundary part and also thinking about some of the other wisdom from Brene Brown of like vulnerability. You're not just going to be willy-nilly vulnerable with anyone and everything. It's discernment.
Yeah.
Practice vulnerability with your people first. There are people it would not be wise nor safe to be vulnerable with.
Yeah.
And I think Hawthorne's a great teacher of
Mm.
that discernment piece. Um, I think of another couple plants that are great teachers of boundaries. There's two that I really want to, they really want a shout out today. There's stinging nettle, which I know in some parts of the country is called like itchweed, I think. And it grows in most places in North America. I've lived in many regions in this country and have been able to locate the stinging nettle almost in every single place. And what the nettle plant has is a lot of incredible medicinal qualities. It's a medical food. You can eat it like spinach, except you get anti-inflammatory properties, antihistamines. They're great for allergies, like seasonal allergies. You get these like plant iron sources connected with them. You get antioxidants. It's a diuretic. It's great for the kidneys. It's very nourishing. It's mineral rich, vitamin rich. However, these stinging nettle plants have these little hairs on them that have this chemical called formic acid, same that's on fire ants. And so it feels like you've got stung by a bunch of fire ants when you accidentally come into contact with it. And it goes away. But also, there's a lot of people that really believe in the medicinal properties of getting stung by stinging nettle because it promotes circulation. And we need circulation for healing. Um, but they're great teachers of boundaries of like, come in, but you better come in mindfully, come in with respect, and just their signature and their physical qualities with those little stingers of formic acid is their way of conveying respect us. And so, anyone that is out wildcrafting and harvesting understands this agreement. And sometimes I'll get stung when I'm harvesting, and I'm like, that's all right. I wasn't careful enough. I deserved it, and I'm okay having this reminder for the next 2 days. I would say even a more powerful plant that is a teacher of boundaries, and I think also a powerful spirit ally of Mama Earth, the planet Earth herself, of being a messenger, it which is to tread lightly, is poison oak, poison ivy, and poison sumac. I remember in 2010, it was my last year fighting fire. That particular season, I was with the Prineville Hotshots, and we were on a fire in Southern Oregon. If anyone is aware, has ever been to Southern Oregon, it's filled with poison oak. Like the forest floor is poison oak. And so here we are in this fire burning. We were there for 2 weeks working in poison oak. And it was It was a harsh climate. It was a very challenging occupational hazard. Half of our crew had to go to town to get cortisone injections to suppress their immune response to the urushiol oil that is responsible for the rash that happens. Plus, it sticks to the clothes, and no one's showering or changing clothes on a fire. You're wearing the same thing for, if you're really luxurious, only a week at a time. If you're more old school, you wear the same stuff for the entire 2 week detail.
Wow.
Um, and I remember one day I was, we were setting up a hose lay. So of course the hose is now getting in contact with the oak everywhere, the oils. I'm like, whoever handles this, probably for the rest of the hose's life, is susceptible and at risk of getting this. And I'm just looking, and there's nobody around, and it's kind of quiet, and there's not a lot of activity, and there's these just like these little oak leaves, like the size, like just they're tiny, and they're just like fluttering in the wind, and I'm just like, guys, look at you. You're so unassuming, but you are moving men, grown, big, burly men to extreme and unique measures. And I just sat there kind of like chuckling, like, wow, good on you. And the message that came through was like, you must tread lightly. We're here to remind you that you can't just tromp and go wherever you want, whenever you please. That there are plants out there that will make you pause and discern, um, or just be more mindful with the steps through the forest, through the land. Um, I love the energy of the poison oaks, sumacs, ivies. There's poison ivy that grows here. And I think that that's like a beautiful energy to cultivate and call in. I think like all of these medicines, like the Sananga, which golly, that one's a doozy. The po the sumac, the singing nettle. Like, how can we learn from them how to be better with boundaries, but also to all be protectors and allies for the earth? Because here's this like question too that we're kind of, I think would be great to talk about is like, so what does stewarding the land look like? And stewarding the land is like stewarding the body, like kind of everybody's different and everybody's role and how, they steward their body will look a little different, although there are basic things because we all are the same, like genus and species. Um, but when it comes to land stewardship, so much of it has to do, there's so many factors. There's privilege, there's position, there's bandwidth, there's knowledge, education, calling, soul purpose. There's buying power, there's influence, there's relationships. Some people are great stewards because they know how to foster and connect people who need to know each other. I know how to introduce this local farm to this other person. And then that's where the magic happens. But there's people that are connecting and making these connections. I think yeah, I'm going to leave it there for now because I want to give it back to you because I'm curious what you have to say about it as well. Because I think the sky's the limit for this part of the conversation. It's like
Yeah.
carrying around your own like thermos when you go to the coffee shop to not get the containers.
Yeah.
But like the reduce, reuse, recycle is only like one part of it. And
Yeah.
there's a lot you can do.
I okay. I want to talk about I'm kind of going into a new tangent with this because I
Mhm.
feel like, and I'm also going to kind of touch on something original too that you were talking about in the very beginning because you brought up climate change. And I am going to make a blanket statement. I believe that climate change is a result of humans not being in resonance with Earth. I blanket statement. Um, because yeah, I mean, just to zoom out, we have collectively, right? The efforts um and our awareness. And And I believe that when the day that when humans, and I feel like it's happening right now, and we've had these, we're talking about stewards of the land, right? The original peoples of taking care of the land, the people that were in resonance with the land and the plants and the trees and the water and the elements, like the people that took care and treaded lightly. Were and we talked about colonization as well, and this as well, just briefly. But it's when we return back to the original keepers, the original wisdom. Remember that our original wisdom, our bodies, are literally a textbook of ancient wisdom, and our bodies are literally our ancestors. We're literally living with our ancestors. It's our blood, it's our DNA, it's in our bones, it's in our mannerisms, it's in our smile, it's in our features. It's this history as well of um my ancestors being that I'm living out and that I get to choose as an ancestor myself how to shift or change the directory, the projection of of our lineage, and also how we're going to show up, how we're going to respect Earth, and creating and developing a relationship, turning back to the wisdom that we have within ourselves, that we have within our bodies, and like reconnecting with Earth, I think is one of the biggest things. And I'm also going to say another blanket statement that what if the deepest wound that people have around being worthy or not belonging is because they don't have a relationship and a sense of belonging with Earth.
Hmm.
And what if when we are tuned in and we drop in and we are literally present with Earth, with our bodies? What if when we're in that state, in that sense of presence, we experience wholeness? I didn't know or mean to start channeling, but but I think when we start turning towards looking at plants not just as nature or externally or outside of us, it's instead seeing that these plants have lived long before us and that they too are our ancestors, and we're talking to them and talking about them as teachers because they are. They are teachers, they are our medicine, they are our ancestors. Um, and so, and again, we're talking also about like when we're talking about a stewardship, it's also this symbiotic relationship. And so it's this cultivation of trust with earth, with plants, with nature, but it's also ourselves. It's also our bodies. It's also knowing that we ourselves are a part of the whole, and that and I love that you started this whole thing off with your story of being in Morocco, of your groundwork of seeing that like this is a collective and also an individual issue. And so, but how empowering is it to know that when we are empowered, when we take up our space, when we are becoming stewards of of ourselves and of our bodies, and when we are completely filled up, and when we are like in our fullness, our wholeness, not only are we stewarding ourselves in a way that we get to be so um enriched with life, but also we get to, you know, amplify energetically those around us. And I'm also going to say collectively the whole Earth herself.
Yeah.
Okay, that was
Mm,
something.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I think there's something really powerful with what you said about like our disconnect that we have to ourselves and the planet and how that's contributing to the situation now. I mean, It's not that far-fetched. I mean, people are literally saying using the metaphor that the world is on fire because it is. Catastrophic fires are happening significantly more than they've happened in a long, 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 long time. Unprecedented events in general, but also unprecedented events within the humans species.
Yeah,
There's a lot of fire. There's a lot of disconnect. There's a lot of conflict and climate change going on, and we're forgetting that we're all supposed to be on the same team.
yeah,
Like diversity is an indicator of health, whether in the microbiome or on a piece of land.
yeah,
You get rid of the diversity, there will be problems. And at the end of the that bio, I've been working on a bio first since I graduated past year, 2014. But I think over the last several years, something that's really important is about like making peace with ourselves, like making peace with our bodies. Um, because that's where it needs to start. Like just like climate change is a really global manifestation of it's the macrocosm of the microcosm. I think war is very much like that too. If we're going to be wanting to see less war, we need to start making peace with ourselves. And you can't fight violence with more violence. The only homeopathy that likes heals likes is homeopathy. Violence does not heal violence. That's not a homeopathic therapeutic approach. It has to be what is the opposite of violence? What is the opposite of forgetting? It's surrender and to throw up that white flag and say enough, or I'm sorry, please forgive me. I thank you. I love you. Forgiveness work has been so big, so, so big in my practice and in my own personal care with so much of this. I will say two things that are coming through that I have started doing in my own reclamation of being an earth steward and really finally believing it as an adult and living it is really acknowledging the land wherever I go. I travel a lot and I've been to a lot of places over the years. I don't travel as much now, but maybe in the future, knock on wood. And when I enter into a new land, I do a grounding to get acquainted with the sense there. And when I'm walking, I will say to myself, to the land, like, thank you for having me here as a guest. Like, I walk with gratitude, humility, respect, and awe. Thank you for having me. And that's been really helpful. And if something doesn't make sense to me in the external world, I only need to go to nature to really get a sense of like, does this track? Because if I can't see a mirror of it in nature, then I don't have the full picture. I don't have the full story.
I love
She's
that.
like my I don't know if dictionary is the word, but she's my reference point.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that so much. I you made me think of something else too, just like so much of different parts of land, they carry the resonance and the history of the people that have also lived there and the events that have happened, right? Like I know that you've lived in places that have had very dense land, and there are places that are thriving, right? We know about vortexes, positive energy vortexes, which I won't nerd out about the science right now, but I'll save that for another time. But what I love that you just called in too with what you just modeled as well is that in a way you're also awakening the lands that have been in slumber. And I think that's a part of stewardship as well, is is like approaching the land with so much respect and the spirits of the land. And I mean, I love seeing people that bring their medicine, such as, singing at a waterfall or their
Mm.
crystal bowls, over the Arctic Ocean. Like I follow this one woman that does that. And I think it's stunning. And just like the beauty that the beautiful thing of like when you are tending land, whether or not you quote unquote colonization own it, you are in so many ways stewarding it and cultivating it. And my one of my mentors, Meg Vejos McCoy, she uh, lives out in the lands of Tenasket and she has several acres. And I remember a story that she shared of when she first landed there. Um, it just like the land spoke to her because she came and she really listened and really was like, I'm here to respect you. And just this land was like, thank you. Thank you. There's another cool story about when after she was married. This is why. Okay, so the land, first of all, is just like completely dry. It's dry and there's trees. And at the very bottom of the base, there's like um even like a what is it called? Sinking sand? Was that called?
Quicksand.
Quicksand. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There's actual quicksand. If you go in it, you ain't coming back. That like cows have gone in there, like they never came back. And so this land, like when we go out there in a couple weeks, I have an alchemy retreat. It's a wilderness retreat. Like it's shitting in a, bucket sort of thing. You're out and you have to be aware of animals and bears and that kind of thing. And so what I wanted to say though is this cool story where like after she got married, she had a goat um that was a part of her big wedding feast and stuff and like a cooler, and it was like hot, really, really freaking hot. And she and her husband, they left it out and then it got really gross. And she lives off the grid, so they don't have like a full-size refrigerator that they could put it in. So anyway, at one point they had to bury it. I was really excited. I wanted to help her bury it. We didn't end up getting into it. So anyway, fast forward a couple years later, I visit her a few months ago, and I'm like, whatever happened to that goat? And she was like, well, you see that patch of grass right there? I mean, this is completely brown for acres, okay? And then there's
Wow.
this lush piece of grass. There's a lush piece of grass where she buried this goat inside a plastic cooler. And it's lush grass, the lushest, greenest grass. I don't know why I felt called to share that, but I thought it was just wild. But the
Oh
land
my,
directly spoke to her and said, like, thank you. And like showed her like in what ways it wasn't tended to or it wasn't seen or it wasn't appreciated for so long. And
yeah.
so, yeah.
Oh my gosh. It reminds me of a couple of things. Like the definition I have, the working definition for magic is finding the extraordinary and the ordinary.
Mhm.
And like, where do we find the magic? It's not on TV. We're going to looking at that sunset. We're looking at the grass in the midst of barren aridness. The four-leaf clover.
The four-leaf clover.
That is my thing. But actually, even this last week, so today's Wednesday. On Saturday, I did a talk at a mushroom festival here in the Black Hills, in Sturgis at Bearview Gardens. I love the gathering of mushroom people. They're so cool. They are my kin, the humans and the mushrooms alike. And I I got re-excited about how amazing mushrooms are, as I prepared for this talk. And one thing I've been doing a lot more of this past year is tending to my house plants. My golly, for like being such a like passionate earth steward and herbalist, like my houseplant situation's devastating. I am not being a good steward to them. So I remember on with summer solstice, I'm like, everything's getting repotted with new soil. Y'all get new soil, and I've just been putting them more front and center. Like if I could show you behind me. There's one, two, three, four, five, six plants. I've got this little one right here. So that new soil went in June. Literally since Saturday till today, mushrooms have like popped up in like three of the plants.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
And like if anyone, so when mushrooms show up in the soil, it is an indicator of health. It is an indicator that this is promising and good soil quality because mushrooms, the mycelial network underneath, is what helps and promotes so much plant growth. It's not just the miracle grow, it's not just like the nitrogen that you're going to add to it. Though obviously that works, but like the health of the soil, the composition of the soil is so important. And rather than doing the, rudimentary stuff, like how do you build up that soil quality? And it's like promoting this diversity and bringing in really powerful, like the kingdom of the mushrooms into that quality. But it
Oh,
was, I have not been so delighted in my plants as I have been in this last week.
oh, that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It reminded me of just we're gonna begin to wrap up here in just a moment, but it reminded me also that we're talking about the soil as well. Like I know something that you're also really passionate about is the chakras. And so I'd love to hear you nerd out about the root chakra
Mhm.
if you'd like.
Yeah, what feels really alive at the moment is, well, first, the chakras are just essentially energy centers. Um, and there's the first that many call the first chakra of root. And it corresponds to a particular location in the body, which is from the toes and soles of our feet up to the very lower part of our pelvic bowl region. So it includes in all of the legs, the sits bones, the um the perineum, the external like organs of the genitalia and the rectum, but also it's including like the tailbone or the coccyx of the spine, the base of the spine. And each of the chakras has a particular theme and like story of correspondences connected to it, things that relate to it. So root are these colors, this color scheme right here, red. Um, and the element connected with it is earth. And can include things like the rocks or stones. It includes soil and dirt as well as the plant kingdom. The next chakra up is water, and the chakra above that is fire. Um, which I also think they're all the elements of this beautiful planet, Mother Earth. But root is the first, and it's like the foundation. It is literally like if you're looking at a tree, like what is creating that sense of stability and security and sustenance? It's the root system below. Um, I love talking about the root chakra with in my practice and in my a lot of my educational offerings. I've even brought in chakras into the academic setting with my master's and PhD students, um, because there's such like beautiful lessons that cross multiple cultures that are like validating and saying the same thing. And in naturopathic medicine, it's the foundations of health. And so, what every body needs, what every person needs is one to feel safe, to have shelter. These are foundations that, in my opinion, everyone should have a right and access to. But it includes like food and sustenance. It includes hydration, movement, but also countered with movement and exercise is rest, the ability to rest. But another one that I like to put in there because that's often more connected to heart chakra, but I think is also en route is connectivity and connection. And I knew that I could because the mycelium told me and showed me I could, like, because they're there. And they are the network that can connect so many of us. Like, they're not just communicating within their own species, within their own kingdom. And keep, like, oh, those trees, those plants over there, they're in an entirely different kingdom. There's no division like that. They are a network of letting them know what conditions are going on in a particular like climate or zone. They're letting know the neighbors know when there's predation going on, like a pest, like a or like something more significant, like the two-leggeds are nearby doing ridiculous things again. Um, but they also are working the soil to make a lot of these nutrients more bioavailable for everybody. And I think the final thing that feels really important to share, I know we need to wrap up soon, is I just want to take a moment to bring forward Robin Wall Kimmerer's most recent book, um, where she's writing about service berries and the service berry economy. I highly recommend anything and everything that Robin Wall Kimmerer does. She is an incredible Earth steward and poet, mother, educator. But when it comes to service berries, so much of the book is talking about like this, the land is here to teach us that there's another way to view economics and to view the economy of exchange of these these basic foundational needs we need that support and nourish our root chakra. And that, and this is really important because there's that sense of safety and security of root. What in the current economy connected to capitalism and patriarchy and white supremacy is there? It causes a lot of nervousness and anxiety. Who's not stressed out about money? But what's the philosophy leading that economy? It's one of scarcity, that there's not enough.
Mm.
And how much of that is a story that we have dreamed up into reality? Robin is challenging this narrative in Service Berries. I know I don't have the complete name. Forgive me for that, but she talks about how there's actually an abundance in nature and there's more than enough to go around. And so much abundance, kind of like when women start getting rich, they don't keep the money to themselves. The research shows they spread the love, they share it, and they make their community, their families, and environments better off.
Fun science fact, a woman that gives money away gets a dopamine hit, and a man that keeps money gets a dopamine hit. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So when we are harvesting these berries, we're giving Mama Earth a dopamine hit.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for ending us there, and for talking about the root chakras as well. Because what I think is so beautiful is it's really the foundation, right? And this kind of brings us into some tangibles as well. And in the Earth module and Divinely Sovereign, we talk deeply about tending to our bodies, our somas, and that being our foundation. And so I super love this conversation with you today about the stewardship with our bodies and ourselves and of land and of earth. And um as my stomach is growling, I hope it's not being picked up here, but to wrap up, I was going to ask you, how can people reach you? Do you have anything for that you would like to end with the viewers? And yeah, how let them know how we can stay connected with you.
Yes. Yeah. So my practice is called Journey Home Healing. I'm going to take a step back. It's beyond a practice. So Journey Home Healing is my vehicle in which operate and offer my services. So it can include my practice of individual one-on-one sessions with people. And I offer telemedicine sessions. I've been doing that for years at this point. Um, it is also a venue for teaching and education, something that I'm very passionate about. And I just want to take a moment. I meant to say this in the beginning, but one thing that was really cool that I learned when I entered the naturopathic medical school last year in Seattle is learning about these principles. One of the first principle is docere, which is the Latin word for teacher. Um, but docere is not defined as to treat or to diagnose. Docere translates, or the definition of it is to teach. It is to be a teacher.
Mm.
And that felt really deep and resonant when I learned about that. And what I've found myself being drawn to is not just one-on-one care, but care within education, workshops, collaborations. Um, the sky's the limit when it comes to what can we do to help support individuals at the individual level and then like the familial level. One of the things I offer is family constellation work, which addresses familial ancestral trauma, because sometimes that can be a major obstacle to cure. And also can work with systems as well, not just families. I've worked with systems connected to like the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine, um, or getting right with like a homeland or a birthplace, or bigger, significant topics like war. And, family constellation work, systemic constellation work is really to make peace and to open up the flow of love again. Um, so yes, if you are interested in, any of these services or just reaching out to say hello and thank you or having a chat, I offer free conversation interviews to anyone that's new to me. You can go to my website, Journey Home Healing, and go to the contact me page. I do have social media, Journey Home Healing on Facebook, Dr. Sarah Sue on Instagram. And I do have a phone number that's on Journey Home Healing. And if you give that number a phone call or a text, I am the one managing that right now. I will get back to you whenever you reach out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah Sue. I absolutely love this conversation, and thank you so much for being a powerful teacher and steward of the land and being a model also for the people that you serve. And thank you for everything that you do and also for your incredible friendship. I'm so grateful to know you.
Thank you, you too, Senna. I love that you're doing this, and your work, your friendship, your energy and essence has been such an inspiration and so nourishing to me as well over the years. And you were so welcome. Such a pleasure. Oh,
Thank
one other
you.
thing I forgot to mention,
Yeah.
I love doing workshops and dancing with people too, especially dancing in the
Yes.
woods. So one more shout out for services.
Yummy. Well, I hope you can come to one of our day retreats someday. Yep. The
Well,
invitation
you
is
were the
open.
one that got me dancing again. So thank you.
Yes. So Sarah Sue, she goes out into the woods and she dances. And I know that you also have this beautiful, like, um, you have a dance history, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely go follow her on Instagram. It's incredible. You're gonna love it. It will light you up. All right, we're gonna complete here. I just want to say thank you again so much. And yeah, to all our viewers, yeah, go follow Sarah Sue and take care. Bye.